Thank you so much to everybody who is supporting me on Patreon. Your generosity and support is greatly appreciated. I love you all so much. If you like what I do and want to support me in a more personal way, then consider joining my Patreon page today. There will be a link at the top of the description. Hello and welcome to another Nerf Blaster review on the channel. My name is Luke Triton and today I'm covering the Elite Titan CS-50. So, this is a fully automatic magazine-fed blaster from 2019, if I recall correctly. This was a very interesting blaster for one main reason, but we'll get to that later on. So, this is quite a unique blaster. As you can tell, this is basically the Nerf minigun. This is something I was interested in getting. I must confess I was interested in looking at this blaster, again, for one reason. But the overall fit and finish of this blaster is actually quite interesting. For the role of having a Nerf minigun is, I think interesting is going to be the word to use, a few more times as well. Pardon me. A few other companies have made Gatling gun style blasters, but this one is definitely a standout purchase. Now, brand new back then, this came out at £100. Here in the UK, it was actually quite amazing for this blaster to come to us. There were some blasters that didn't make their way to us, but I'm glad this one did. Nowadays, if you try to get one brand new, it's going to cost you around £130, or at least as to what I've seen with some listings. So let's have a quick look at the blaster itself. Need to take out that fat drum because that is actually quite heavy. So, the Titan CS-50 is obviously inspired by a minigun style shape, and it is quite limiting in how you could use this, in the sense, like, what Nerf war could you use this for? Outside, amongst a bunch of other friends at parties, it's not really the indoor 1v1 type. Holding this is actually quite comfortable. You need to get used to it after a while because obviously, this is a very unconventional blaster. It's going to be difficult for me to kind of show you comfortably at least, but right now I've got that lowered down. It's actually not heavy. Just holding it like this, even with the batteries loaded, is completely fine. The battery door is it this side or is it the other side? There we are, this side. Can't quite remember. So this is the battery door. It takes 4 D-sized batteries. They're big and heavy, but even then, just holding it from the grip here, again, unconventional grip, but it's not heavy. Having that front handle really does help because after a while, it's going to bog down. It's going to really feel much heavier. That front handle is a little bit underwhelming in the sense where it looks quite thin, and that top part of the handle, this bit here where you have to put your hand on, is fixed to the main handle piece itself. It doesn't rotate on its own. That's an easy modification for those who mod their blasters for it to be more free, but that kind of builds up sweat. I can feel the friction on my hand against that grip, and after a while it gets a bit uncomfortable. But then again, this isn't something I use much, so it's not too much of a problem for me. On this side of the blaster, we have the magazine release switch. It is a nice, fat, chunky button, and I'm actually quite glad that it's as big as it is, because, of course, the drum that comes with it is just as chunky. So, not to show this off too much, but the idea of releasing it is actually quite tricky, having to hold this up like this. How would you go about releasing it, because it's magazine fed? It's not difficult, you don't need to put in much pressure, but it's just weird having to hold it up whilst you're pressing in the release and pulling out the magazine. After a while you can get used to it, and it's actually not that difficult after you've done it a few times. But that unusual nature is what makes it quite weird. We have spinning barrels at the front as well, so if I actually quickly put the drum back in, just to demonstrate this. And just before I even do that, so the jam door is on the other side of the blaster, opposite to where the batteries are. To me, this looks like a small jam door, but then again, that might be because the blaster is absolutely massive. So closing that allows you to operate the blaster. For as long as it's open, you cannot fire this blaster. The rev trigger on the grip is this one here, and when you pull it, the barrels spin. From what I understand, those spinning barrels don't affect the performance, because if you look down here, that's quite a big barrel, so that's pretty good. However, I have seen a few performance nerfers make complaints saying, oh, there's more power going to the spinning barrels than there is to the flywheels. yeah, I can understand what you mean, but I don't think it's too much even then. When you're running around, not running around, but walking around more so with this, you know, it doesn't really matter about performance. As long as you're getting darts down range at your opponents, you're going to have a good time. So whilst that is the rev trigger, the main trigger is underneath this little cover here, which I actually quite like. So you lift this up, and that is your main trigger. Obviously pressing it down right now, nothing's happening because the flywheels aren't revving. I'm not going to fire this here now because it's tricky enough to get this in range. And if I start shooting something with this, I'm probably going to get a bit carried away. But nonetheless, that is how you operate it. So what I will actually do, to quickly demonstrate the function of the jam door. So again, as mentioned earlier, with the jam door open, you cannot fire this blaster. So that's your rev trigger. You would press that to rev it up. That might get in the way, that cover might get in the way after a while, but even then it's not too much of an issue just to rip it off. It's not really attached to anything. Rev trigger down, main trigger down, and then you start spewing your foam. Good stuff. At the front of, that's a good reminder as well, at the front of this barrel, as you can see there, is a tactical rail. I don't know how you're going to put over there, but you know, it's nice that it exists. A torch, a scope, laser pointer, who knows? But again, it's there. Definitely just to remind you, yeah, this is still Nerf, you know, tactical potential technically does exist, but I don't know, it's just a bit silly to see a tactical rail on a minigun. Now then, with the blaster set down, it's time to talk about the more attractive feature of what this whole unit comes with. The drum. Yeah, look at this. This is a 50 dart drum. Now, there are some things I like to talk about when it comes to this drum, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to be making a separate video after I'm done recording this one, because this is actually really fascinating. Now, I want to quickly make something known. I may as well say it in this video as well, because it's more about the Titan itself. I bought 2 of these Titans. Both Titans came with the 50 dart drum. The other one's over here. Yeah? So yes, I have 2 fat drums. Oh my goodness me. So, I was able to buy both of these second-hand for around £65 each. I can't remember if I set this at the start of the video because I've done a few takes for this video now. It's actually a bit annoying. But if you were to buy one at the time of this coming out, it would cost you £100. If you're going to buy one brand new now, from the listings that I've seen, it will cost you around £130. That is a fair amount of money, it's got to be said. So if you're going to buy one brand new for that kind of money, you need to really make sure you want this product. But I am someone who would rather buy this for the drum than the blaster. And I've seen other reviewers say, yeah, it's definitely worth it just for the drum alone. Now then, the drum itself is quite fascinating because this is something that was supposed to come out 10 years ago. I have actually been in the Nerf hobby long enough to recognise this. I joined the Nerf hobby 2008, I think it was. My first blaster was the Recon CS-50. I remember seeing the adverts for the Stampede, and I remember seeing the images as well for the Stampede where it came with its own 50 dart drum. It looked to be a little bit smaller than this, but it was a thing. Could you imagine 10 years ago if this existed? 10 years of nerfing and people would be using a 50 dart drum. How different would the Nerf scene be? That would be... It's just an amazing what if to ponder and to think about. It's amazing, genuinely so amazing. Now that's what it looks like on the back. It is very snaky to see it all go around like that, but at the same time kind of makes sense. To try and make this more compact I think would be a little bit more difficult. I do like the Elite design on the front. It is definitely a very cool look. To go back to the back, again this holds 50 darts. I was able to fit in 51, but that one extra dart did cause feeding issues. So don't do what I did and try and sneak in that extra dart because it does not like it at all. Now, when it came to feeding issues, that's actually a really good point because I used this in multiple blasters. In particular, there was one blaster that I used, the regulator. Have I got it wrong? Yeah, it's over there, but it's not so much of an issue. I don't need to really get in the blaster for this. So, the regulator is a fast-firing automatic blaster. It has a conveyor belt to grab the dart and feed it into the flywheels. And that's, again, really fast. It's the same mechanism used for the Hyperfire. The Titan fires slower than that. Sadly, again, I'm not going to be able to really demonstrate that here because I don't really have the appropriate space for that. but if you see other reviews and see it firing in other videos, you will be able to understand what I mean. So when it came to putting this drum in faster firing blasters, it didn't jam, so to say, but the feeding issues were there. After firing a few dozen, like, I don't know, between 20 and 30, somewhere around there, the darts wouldn't feed through, and the blaster would behave as if the magazine was empty. Therefore, there would be a few times where I have to, give the drum a quick shake or even bump it a bit just to force the darts into the correct feeding position for me to be able to continue. That happens once or twice. Again, this is more specific to that blaster. With other blasters I've tried this with, spring blasters, of course, is not too much of a problem. It all feeds perfectly fine. With the Titan itself, completely fine. Because it's automatic, yes, but it's slower in the fire rate. So there was no feeding issue. The drum didn't have any issues or any errors in trying to keep up with the faster fire rate, so it was okay. So if you're going to do what I do and use something that's a faster firing blaster, even a modified blaster, something that is modified in particular, you got your higher voltage batteries or something that's more aggressive so it fires harder, be careful, because whilst you have 50 darts available, that's really cool, it could lead to some feeding issues, and that's something I want to make sure that you don't end up returning, because if you think to yourself, well, I've got this in, it's not feeding, it's not working properly, I've got a dud. No, it's not a dud, you just need to slow down a bit. So yeah, hopefully that all made sense. I'm going to save everything else I want to talk about with this drum in its own dedicated video. Again, there's so much more I could say on this, but this review video is about the whole package, and I want to be able to speak about the whole package as a unit. So putting that in is actually quite easy. Again, this fits on any other Nerf blaster, and you can fit any other, not just drum magazine, you can fit any other magazine that Nerf has made, or at least the standard ones that I've made. Not made or acquired. The standard magazines that Nerf has made for the N-Strike lines can fit in this blaster. That's what I'm trying to say. So the 6 dart, the 10 dart, the 12 dart, any of the drums, I have tested them all. I've got pretty much near enough every normal size. The ones I'm thinking of, like the Fortnite quirky shapes, I doubt they would fit in something like this. Potentially, but I think the shell pretty much ruins it once you get to that standard magazine point. So if I quickly try and take this out again, the awkwardness is a bit weird. You can see here, that's the main magazine insert piece. And straight after, you got a nice fat drum. Big thing. Fortnite magazines are kind of similar in the sense where once you get past that standard magazine insert piece, you get some crazy shape. So, this has been an interesting video to record. I've done this a few times. We're at 13 minutes now. That is much quicker than it was previously, it's got to be said. So once again, I'm going to save every other detail I want to talk about with the drum in its own dedicated video. And now we get to the point where I give my purchase recommendation for this blaster. I'm actually going to have to put this down now because having to try and keep it in frame is a bit irritating. There we go, so I'm going to put that in front of me there. The Titan CS-50 is without a doubt a very interesting blaster. It's something that a lot of people were excited for when they first saw it, and it was a blaster I didn't think I would have that much fun with. I didn't buy this for the blaster itself. Remember, I'm someone who likes the more conventional rifle style blasters, like the regulator, but the way I've got it set up, like a rapid strike, where I've got it in my shoulders, I'm like that, and I've just got a massive drum, plenty of darts ready to go. That's what I enjoy. And when it came to using the Titan, I was holding on to it. I had a bit of fun firing. I thought, you know what, I'm actually really liking this blaster. In time, I am going to sell the blasters themselves onwards. I don't really want to have them anymore, but for the time that I had them, and for now still do have them, it's really fun just to have it on your hip like this and just have some fun with it, because it is still a toy. It's still so cool just to have something like that in your hands. If you are a parent buying for your child, I for one would recommend that you don't buy this blaster. It's expensive. If you're buying it for a child, this could be too big and too overwhelming for them. If you're a casual Nerf fan like myself, I'm not someone who modifies blasters. I don't buy every blaster. I know what kind of blasters I like. Again, magazine fed, the sort of tactical potential on blasters where they got rails and stock and barrel attachment points. The more fun sort of ones, those are blasters I go for. I don't really have that big an arsenal, but again, I know what I like. This doesn't fit in my arsenal, but I can enjoy it whilst I still have it. So with the purchase recommendation as to whether it's a yes or no answer, I sadly can't give that one-word answer. It's actually quite difficult because it is very situational. You could definitely buy this for, I don't know, if you're a parent buying for your child, it's understandable where you can buy this as a sort of party thing. Whether you're able to return it or not, I don't know, but I could definitely see this being a party piece, or if you've got a bunch of friends around, you could definitely whip this out and have a good old time. If you're a more hardcore nerfer, if you like to collect loads of blasters, this is definitely up your alley. The Titan is, again, such a unique blaster. The drum that comes with it is definitely worth the purchase alone, but again, that's something I, for one, think is more towards my end, and something I will be explaining in this other video for like the 12th time I've said now. So, yes, the Titan, just looking at it down here, it's such an interesting and unique piece. I'm glad a product like this existed and came out before Elite 2.0 even came to fruition. Could you imagine if something like this comes out in a few years for Elite 2.0? Cost-cutting measures, the cheaper overall sort of fit and finish with something like this. I think this will be the biggest failure for Nerf if they even tried something like that now, in Elite 2.0 at least. So yeah, that is my strange purchase recommendation. You know, you have to really want it in order to enjoy it. Remember, I bought two, both at some pretty cheap prices. I'm going to be selling the blasters on as well because I only wanted the drums. However, freedom is freedom. You can spend your money on whatever you want. If this helped you in your purchase recommendation, then I suppose that's a good thing because, again, it's ultimately your choice. If you have any questions about this blaster, be sure to ask me in the comments section below. Thank you, everyone, so much for watching. I'm loving doing these Nerf videos again. Kind of reminding myself how long these videos get. Right now on the timer, it's about to clock 17 minutes. These are really long videos, but still, being able to stand up here in front of the camera holding a Nerf blaster, so much fun. I love it all so much, and I love you for watching, and I love my Patreons for supporting me on Patreon. Thank you for sticking around and understanding the sort of weirdness I'm going to be kind of going through when it comes to these Nerf videos. Be sure to like and subscribe if you haven't already. I will see you all in the next episode. Bye.